Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill. And as always, I have Mitch Grawl and Dean Chambers with me. How you doing, guys?
Very good. How are you?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Well. We are on week 16. Some teams are packing it up, or most teams are packing it up. And there's some teams out there that are in their playoff lives. I think it's safe to say that there's only one spot left over on the NFC side, with three teams already being locking up spots on the on the AFC side. Um, Two teams are definitely going to be there, and I honestly think the rest of them. There's three teams fighting for two more spots on the AFC side. So,
A
and
bit of chaos on the AFC side.
yes, there is some chaos on the AFC side. So, we're gonna go all in. We're gonna go into that a little bit during our middle segment. As you guys know, the format: first segment we cover all the games. Second segment we have a little middle discussion, and at the end, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the upcoming games. We have two games, as we always do. Our second to last game that we think is a good pick, and the our I guess you'd call it our game of the week. So we're gonna run through all of those for you. So if you guys are ready, we are going to kick this thing off. First game on our list, we have New England hosting Jacksonville. And New England, did they wake up, or was it that they were just playing Jacksonville? We're going to start you off on this one, Mitch.
Well, I tell you what, have yourself a game, Donnie Lewis. Look more like Donnie Shell out there playing against Jacksonville. Two picks, I think what's a sack, some fumbles. Just jeez. When he was all over the field, we completely took over the game for the New England defense, and Jacksonville just could go nowhere. Total 171 yards. 171 yards for the Jacksonville offense this week against the vaunted, 85 Bears New England defense, apparently. So, nice game for Donnie Lewis and New England. So, what do you think, Dean?
Well, I have to ask you, did the Patriots or the Minutemen, as you like to call them, did they play offense or did they just simply play against Jacksonville's lack of defense in this game?
Well, I don't think they played offense. I just think they got so many more possessions because the Jacksonville offense was so bad.
Ouch.
Mm.
That's my opinion.
Ouch. Anything else you
So,
got on that one? On that one, Dean?
so are you telling us that you would select Jacksonville as the 18th ranked team in the league this season?
Well, their record says they are, so yes.
Okay.
And I believe James made his commentary about that, and he basically said the Jets are on the clock for the
Well,
draft.
and what they have been since about week 7. So
Yeah.
So,
Well,
well,
yeah.
a lot of rethinking of things to take place in Jacksonville during this offseason.
mm, very much.
Yeah, definitely. Next game, we have the defending champion Los Angeles taking on the Las Vegas Raiders, and they ended up winning this game 31-27. Dean.
Yeah, this was a solid effort by Las Vegas. They scored some points. They looked a bit better on offense, and the defense didn't quite seem to show up the way they would want it to. And the Chargers did what they had to do. They won this game and stayed a step ahead of Kansas City and going into the playoffs with the possibility of defending their Super Bowl championship and going in with a bit of momentum.
All right. Mitch, what do you got?
Well, the Los Angeles offense did nothing in this game, but their defense actually did all most of the scoring. Two pick sixes for the Los Angeles defense in this game. Absolutely, um, absolutely changed the complexion of this game. It's not very often that you see a team, intercept the ball three times, return two of them for touchdowns, and then still barely hang on here to win by 4 points. But you know what? That when you're the champs, things like that happen for you. So very interesting game for sure.
Definitely.
82 yards of interception returns with those
Yeah,
three interceptions. 82
yeah,
yards.
Yeah.
yeah.
Got lucky bounce. Lucky bounce. Got it. Next game we have Anaheim hosting Minnesota. Is this a team that woke up, or is it just a stumbling block off of Minnesota as Anaheim won this game 24-15? Mitch.
Well, we've all talked about Minnesota. Um, they'll go on these stretches where it looks like, okay, here we go, and then they'll stub their toe against teams that they definitely are expected to beat. And this was one of those games this week where they stubbed their toe. And I'm sure Marnie was not anticipating this happening, especially going on the streak they were on, trying to get to the playoffs. But you know what, Dobbs, dinked and dunked his way down the field, and old Rashad Penny was able to get a couple of scores into the end zone. So there you go. 9 point victory.
All right. Dean, what do you got?
Yeah, Dobbs completed 71% of his passes, which is pretty solid, and threw for a touchdown pass. And they did 6.4 yards per pass, which isn't bad, and two running touchdowns. And the three touchdowns was enough to win. And the Anaheim defense played pretty solid. And I don't know that many of us expected Minnesota to lose to Anaheim in this game. It's kind of an upset, kind of a surprise, but I guess the Rams wanted to show they're going to finish the season with some momentum and build on that for next season. And they definitely don't want to be viewed as the 18th ranked team in the league.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Next game we have. What do we have here? We're gonna go ahead and we'll keep the order. We're gonna go ahead and go with New York Giants hosting Atlanta, and Atlanta taking this one 35-19. We're gonna start with you on this one, Mitch.
Well, actually, New York took that game 35-19, not Atlanta.
Oh, my mistake.
Yes, Dean suddenly got excited. He had to go back and check the scoreboard again. But Saquon Barkley showed up and showed out. Three touchdowns off 116 yards rushing. If nothing else, Saquon Barkley has had a resurgence here, moving from where did he move from? I keep getting all the names. It was Seattle, then it was Cincinnati, Las Vegas. Going from Las
Yeah,
Vegas over to the
yeah.
Giants.
I don't think I
All
have
the names,
Barkley. Yeah.
all the names. Well, no, it was originally drafted by Seattle.
Ah,
Before you came along. But anyhow, yeah.
That's what
So
Dan's team was Seattle, and he
yeah, that
moved.
was Dan. That was the Dan Seattle team. Yes, yes, he was the number one overall pick, I believe, whenever that happened. But anyway, bottom line was Barkley went crazy, and usually when Barkley goes crazy, the Giants win, and so not a surprise to see that happen. And Atlanta now has to have a lot of help if they're going to get into the playoffs, and they're in the NFC. So there you go.
Dean, what do you got with your team?
Yeah, I think the effective running by the Giants set up their offense, and it provided for some opportunities for the passing game. So the Atlanta defense just didn't match up and just didn't get the job done. And that was made up for by the lack of offense. I mean, a couple scores in the second half made the game look closer, but it was looking pretty terrible in the first half. Not much offense at all.
Mm. So, well, we'll talk about the middle segment. I was going to ask you a question related to your team, but we'll shelf that for the little
I
later
guess
on.
you could just to say that we didn't block very well, and we made up for it by not tackling very well.
Yeah, that was a game that's that one game you feel like, man, we had this one and we just ended up we didn't want it bad enough. So wasn't yeah didn't want it bad enough. So next game we have Detroit hosting Pittsburgh, and we have Detroit walking away with a 27-6 victory. Dean, what do you got?
Yeah, this was a surprise. I would have expected Pittsburgh to be much tougher. I mean, they only scored 6 points, and apparently that was a touchdown, and they didn't convert the 2 point conversion. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Detroit was pretty solid in this game. You know, they had effective offense, effective enough, and very good defense, and held Pittsburgh to just a single score.
Yep. Mitch,
This
what?
is definitely
Yep. Mitch, what do you got?
Well, I mean, this is one where Pittsburgh has been tough all season. They haven't won as many games as I'm sure that they would have wanted to, but they've been tough, especially on scoring defensive side. This is a part where, and you look around the league and a lot of our newer coaches, where I think there's going to have to be some adjustments made, and that is on the offensive side. Here you look at Pittsburgh, right? And there's a lot of talk around completion percentages and whatnot. Well, gosh, Pittsburgh 76% completion. Well, other than one pass for 51 yards, 15 of their 16 completions averaged 5 yards a catch. Um, you're not going to score a lot of points averaging 5 yards a catch, not per attempt, but per catch. And so I'm sure Pittsburgh and a few other teams out there will be kind of reevaluating how they pick their offensive plays, and will definitely be ready for moving the ball down the field going forward.
Okay. All right. So as we move on from the Detroit Pittsburgh game, the next one we have on our list is Chicago and San Francisco. I would have thought that Frisco would have put up some more points than what they did, but let me get your guys' take on this as Chicago walked away with a 29-6 victory. Mitch. Mitch.
Well, if I'd stop talking on mute, that would be great. But no, the exact opposite happened here than what happened in that Detroit Pittsburgh game. Chicago very consistently is able to move the ball down the field vertically against their opponents. And this is no different in this game here, where for Fields was able to hit, 29 passes for 325 yards, three touchdowns. And so, that's well over, 10 yards a catch, not per attempt, but 10 yards a catch there in for Chicago. And that's balanced out by 133 yards on the ground. And so Chicago continues to display a high flying offense, and which against San Francisco, I think I mentioned this before, they were a top three scoring defense coming into this game. So definitely no pushover there. So nice win for Chicago.
Dean, what do you
you know
have? Go ahead.
Chicago gets a lot of attention for its offense, but I think what we need to look at here is the defense. The Cardinals kept the 49ers out of the end zone. All they allowed was two field goals. So if you play the Cardinals and you're not going to score any touchdowns, it doesn't matter how many field goals you kick, you're not going to win. You have to score touchdowns to beat Chicago, and San Francisco didn't do that. And yeah, the other things definitely were true. The offense was solid. Justin Fields played well. I have to wonder at this point if Charlie is a big fan of, certainly not a big fan of Justin Fields after this game. And we turned out to be the better quarterback of the two, even though most of us would probably not pick him as the better quarterback between those two. But in this game, he was.
Okay. Next game we have, as we are finishing up week 15 games, we have the only overtime game was Indianapolis hosting Seattle, and it took them overtime to get to it, but Indy walked away with a 23-20 win. Dean.
Yeah, this one kind of surprised me. This was close. Of course, it went into overtime. And, it was a pretty tough fought game on both sides. The stats are pretty close. And, I think, well, I mean, you know, you could say that Seattle won the turnover battle, only giving up the ball twice, and Indianapolis had 3 interceptions, but they did manage to tie it and getting into overtime. It always seems like the team that comes from behind and forces the overtime seems to do better in the
Yes,
overtime.
yes, I know.
No,
I,
tough loss, tough loss to the Seahawks, but we have an off season coming up, and for many of us, it's going to be an opportunity to reassess things and figure out how to win more often and hope for better results next season.
yep. Mitch, what do you got?
Here's what I got. A lot of knowledge I'm going to drop on you guys right now. First of all, you want to know how you go from a losing record and get to a point where you're going to go into the playoffs with the possibility of having a 10-win season. You want to know, Mark? You want
Yes,
to know the secret to that?
yes,
Okay.
please.
Here's the secret to that. Go 3-0 in overtime games. Indianapolis 3-0 in overtime this year. I tell you what, man, it is like the cardiac kids, the cardiac Colts in Indianapolis. They're 3-0 in overtime this year. But here's what makes it even more amazing. Here's what even it is. You look. I mean, you go, what the heck here, right? Not watching the game, just looking at the stats. Indianapolis, Jordan Love, 0 touchdown passes, 3 picks. And yet somehow, even with Zach Wilson throwing for, a 3-burger, they're 306 and 2 touchdowns. Somehow Indianapolis found their way into overtime. Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I don't
welcome
know.
welcome to my world, okay?
And here's the craziest thing about this game. Okay, Michael Woods, wide receiver for Seattle, right, gets player of the game. Now, Michael Woods had 56 yards receiving for Seattle. Rieger had 101 yards receiving for Seattle, but yet Woods gets player of the game. Why? Because he's the one who caught 2 touchdowns for the losing team. So this game is all messed up from a statistical standpoint. I don't know what was going on, but Indianapolis, Coach Hoover, congratulations. Your team comes through in the clutch, man. So nice job.
Well, I can share some knowledge too. I can tell people how you can go from a winning record to a losing record. Just the opposite.
Well, how was that?
Um, Pretty easy. You just have too many of those games where you don't tackle very well and you make up for it by not blocking very well.
Oh,
Sounds like my game.
gotcha.
ah, sounds exactly like my game. So I have to agree with you guys. We put up the good numbers. I don't know how we lost it from
The
our.
Colts are a team of destiny, Mark. That's all it was. They're a team of destiny this year. You're not going to get in the way. You're not going to get in the way. It's just their year. Not going,
Unless
it's
they beat the
it's their
Jets.
year.
Is
Not
Yeah.
yet, unless they beat the Jets.
is there years?
I didn't say they're going to Super Bowl. I said it's just their year. Their year is having a winning season, getting the playoffs.
No,
Mm,
this team that does anything, I'm not buying that bill of goods unless they beat the Jets. Then I'll buy it.
Oh.
mm. I don't know. Anyway. So as we come down to our last two games, we have Washington playing New Orleans, and that was a very close game. I think it was, very, very tight. I think I want to hear you guys take on this one as Washington walked away with a 17-14 win. We are going to start with Mitch.
Well, I tell you, not a lot of excitement in this game. If you're looking for excitement, particularly if you're a New Orleans fan, three turnovers. You had expected Washington really to kind of stomp them in this game, but New Orleans was able to hold tough and not allow the Redskins to take advantage of those turnovers the way I'm sure that Coach Seymour expected his team to do. And like I said, it was a fight, just grinded out, kind of old school PNFL game right here. So congratulations to the Redskins. I know they were on a little bit of a skid there before this game, so they maybe getting a little some confidence going into that season finale. But the New Orleans, still feel good about their future after the playoff season last year. Have a chance, potentially to get themselves to 500 if they can pull off the win this week, and you will see what happens.
You know what I think made the difference this season for Washington?
What?
Getting beat by the Seahawks. The
Oh, gee,
Redskins,
thanks.
man, no, seriously. The Redskins were playing strong and had momentum. They started the season 7-1, and then they lost to the Seahawks. Now, since then, they've won a few close games. They've lost some games. I'm not predicting it necessarily, but if Washington loses this week, they will have gone 3-4, 3 wins, 4 losses. But if they win, it's only 4-3. That's certainly not the 7-1 pace they played in the first half of the season. So I think whatever Washington was doing that was working well. I think Seattle figured that out and beat them in that Week 9 game.
And people kind
And
of picked up on that.
yeah, I think other teams have been playing them tough since then. And you know, I think Jerry will have to rethink things a bit and readjust going into the playoffs to be competitive
Okay.
against either the 49ers or the Cardinals.
Hmm. Interesting
Or,
take on
it could be that after Washington beat Chicago by 17 there week 8, and you had that nice lead in the NFC East, that he just decided to take the second half of the year off and just throw in the same PPPs each week. So maybe it's that, and he's been gearing up for the playoffs since week 9. Who knows?
that. Another interesting theory. Hmm.
Yeah, I'd bet against that theory though.
Yeah. All right. Last game that we have on the list this week, we have Kansas City playing against the New York Jets. Um, Definitely a good game. Definitely a close game. I am sure Mitch is going to have something to say about it. But we are going to start this one off as the Jets walked away with a 16-14 victory. Dean.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with the Jets, and they started the backup quarterback. I don't believe that Mac Jones was injured. Both teams ran the ball fairly well. The Chiefs had 141. The Jets had 134 yards rushing. And, both the quarterbacks were around 50% of their completions. It was a tough, close game. And I remember the scoring kind of went back and forth. But, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the one thing that ended up deciding this game, and that is the field goal kicker for the Chiefs missed two key field goals, and that ultimately decided the game.
Okay. Coach Mitch, what's going on over there?
Well, I got Tamu here this past week. So what do you do? Yeah, Dean is right, man. In any field goal attempt over 40 yards this year has been an absolute roll of the dice for my team. I think if you look at the stats, field goals under 40 yards, I think I'm like 16 of 17. Over 40 yards, I think I'm like 4 of 12 something ridiculous. So I even put some extra time into some special teams this week, and it still didn't help me out any. But you know what, though, man, that's it. Yeah, it shouldn't come down to field goals anyway. It should come down to touchdowns, and there were some opportunities left on the field that should have not put that in the situation, but I think both coaches probably feel that way. It was a good game, good tough game, similar to that Redskins Saints game, kind of an old school grind it, uh, out football game, and I'm not much into moral victory, so I'll just leave it at that. Should have won, could have won, but didn't win, and so now makes this week 16 game even more spicy for me. So looking forward to it.
All right.
Yeah, it's spicy. I think you're going to be, you might be in danger of having some more indigestion.
Ah,
All
Not
right.
what you want at this stage of the season.
well, this lets you know you're alive, Dean. Lets you know you're alive.
If it doesn't kill you, makes you stronger.
That's right.
All right.
I,
So
I,
as
I,
we
blame,
ref,
I blame that overtime game in Indianapolis. Darn those overtime Indianapolis games.
God,
If you'd have
yes,
beat him and I'd have beat him, I'd be no problem in the playoffs.
I think that's the second. I think that might be the second or third overtime game I've lost this season.
Excuse me.
Just like goodness, oh my goodness. Anyhow, all right, guys. So we're gonna pivot over to our middle segment, and I'm sure you guys already know exactly what it's gonna be about. We are going into week 15, and it is the last one before we go into the playoffs. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we have three positions already taken up in the NFC side. That would be Chicago, Washington, and San Francisco. And that last one, I would say, is between the Giants, Atlanta, and New Orleans. So that's how we're looking on the NFC side. On the AFC side, the New York Jets and LA, they have their spots locked up. Then from there, it becomes a toss up between Kansas City, Minnesota, and Indianapolis. So you have three teams fighting for two spots. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Dean on this one to talk about the AFC side, and then we're going to pivot over to Mitch to talk about the NFC side. So take it away, Dean.
Yeah, I think Minnesota, from what I'm saying, has a chance of getting in, but they're hosting the Raiders, and if the Raiders beat them, they'll end their host. And Indianapolis, I think, would be favored to get in, and they play a game at Jacksonville. Jacksonville may want to play the spoiler, but I don't know if they can do that. And all Indianapolis has to do is simply win that game, and I believe they're definitely in. Then the other question is, and James put out this scenario that if this and this and that happen, it's spelled out in that email, Kansas City will not make the playoffs. And, that's theoretically possible. I wouldn't bet on it being more likely, though, but that is Possible. Looks like now, of course, Kansas City plays the Chargers this week, so that game is going to be huge. Likely the game of the week this coming week. So those are the things that will have to be decided. Indianapolis is in control of their destiny. They just have to win. And Kansas City, they have to. I don't know if you call it an upset at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if Rich has it rated as a pick 'em or what was the spread on that one? Do you remember?
That one is rated at. I think it is listed as a pick'em. Hang on one second. Yep, that's listed as a pick'em this week.
Okay, it kind of makes sense for that to be a pick 'em. So but if Kansas City can pull off the win against the Chargers, then they control their own destiny. At least get in the playoffs. I don't know about winning the division. And of course, the Jets are definitely in, and I believe the Chargers are in either way, but they'd rather win and go into the playoffs with a win. But I think that's what we're looking at in the AFC right now.
Okay. So, Mitch, what do you see on the NFC side?
Well, you look at this and gosh, I mean, it really is going to be. Is it going to be New York or New Orleans? Um, I don't think Atlanta can get in. Maybe I don't know I don't know all the tiebreakers on that stuff, but either way, I would hope that who we got playing here. So you got the Giants playing San Francisco. That'll be tough. San Francisco, despite the score against Chicago, plays tough defense. So that's going to be a tough game for New York. And then you look at New Orleans, and not sure what motivation Chicago might have this week. So maybe they kind of just tuck it in, pun intended, and maybe New Orleans could sneak in there at 8-8 and make it 2 years in a row into the playoffs for them. But who knows if both those teams lose and Atlanta wins against Washington. I have no idea how the tiebreaker for that's going to end up going. Heck, I'm looking here now, and I mean, shoot, Atlanta actually might get in. I'm looking. I don't know what the head-to-heads all are, but I know conference. I think conference record would go towards Atlanta. So the divisional record would go towards Atlanta, at least versus the Giants. So we'll see. We'll see. But it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out.
Yeah, Atlanta has had to head over the Saints. I don't expect Chicago to mill it in. I don't think Justin ever mills it in. So if the Saints are going to win that game, they're going to have to outcoach and score an upset there. I don't see that game being mailed in.
All right. So, we talked about our opposing conferences. So, for a real quick synopsis or a quick review or a projection, Mitch, what do you see is going to happen on the AFC side?
On the AFC side, well, I'm going to go on a limb and say New York is going to get the number one seed.
Oh, I don't know.
On that, yeah, I think the Jets are going to get the number one seed because they're on a mission, as you have reminded us for the last 15 weeks, and so then LA will get that number two seed, win that division, and I'm going to say it'll be Indianapolis and Kansas City rounding out the
Top
the
four.
playoffs.
All
Yeah.
right. Dean, what do you see on the NFC side?
Of course, Washington and Chicago will win the divisions, and the 49ers are winning one of the wild card spots. I think the most likely situation is that the Giants win this week, finish 8-8, and win that fourth spot.
Okay. All right, there you go, guys. And as we come over to our last segment here, we are going to go over the Week 16 games, and there's some good ones out there. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing kicked off. First game for Week 16, we have The New York Jets going against New England. They are giving, or actually, let me rewind this. Rich Sporting Books. So as we I always forget to put this in there. So overall for the season, as you guys see on the screen right now, overall games. The only thing that I am winning in this league, I'm sitting at 89 and 46 for the season. Mitch is at 87 and 48 for the season. And Dean is at 75 and 60 for the season. For lead pipe locks, Mitch and Dean are still tied, each at 8 and 7. And I'm trailing in third place at 6 and 9. So kind of interesting little thing. I wonder what would happen if you guys end up tied at the end of the season. Huh,
I don't know.
that's going to be interesting. All right, so getting back to where I was at before, we have the New York Jets going in to play New England. Rich Sporting Books is giving the Jets 17 and a half. We are going to start with you, Dean.
Yeah, I think this is pretty clear. The Jets don't mill it in either. They're going to win and cover the spread here.
All right, Mitch.
I'm going to go Jets. Jets.
Okay. Um, this is a hard one for me, but I'm going to go Jets. Next game, we have Indianapolis going up against Jacksonville. They are giving the Colts 9.5. I would say that this is a game that they need to win. But we're going to see what you have to say on this one, Mitch.
The Colts are the team of destiny. They're going to win this game because Jacksonville has already packed up their facility for the year, and Colts will win this game big.
Dean, what do you got?
Yeah, I think this is probably the most important game to date for Tim here in the PNFL, and I think he's going to put together a winning effort here and beat Jacksonville and make his first playoff appearance in the PNFL.
All right. I will concur. I'm going with Indianapolis as well. Next game is our first pick'em of Week 16. LA hosting Kansas City. We are going to start with you, Dean.
Yeah, I think when you look at this game, I hear some rumors that Justin Herbert will be starting quarterback and Kaiser will be on the sideline holding a clipboard. But the team isn't just the quarterback. The Chargers play a solid defense, and they have a good running game, and they have some good receivers, and um, they're playing at home, and I think they have incentive to want to go into the playoffs with momentum, and I think they even kind of like the idea that after playing tough games against the Chiefs, that they have a chance to actually knock the Chiefs out of the playoffs. And I think if you're in the betting, my betting limit is $1, but if you like to bet more than that, I think you want to put some money on the Chargers here. And yes, this is my lead pipe lock of the week. The Chargers are going to win this game. Might only be by 1 point. It's a pick 'em, according to Rich's sports books. But yeah, this is a lead pipe lock. Chargers win.
All right. Mitch, what do you got?
Well, I guess if I lose the game, they have to depend on Las Vegas to beat Minnesota to get into the playoffs. I'm not going to do that. So Chiefs are going to win this game.
All right. I will agree on that one. I think, we've talked about how you do your strategizing and getting your game plan. I think you're going to, if you haven't been in overdrive, or if you've been in overdrive this season, you're going to go into overdrive with some, um, with that extra boost in there and that knocks in there. So to kind of give you the extra firepower. So I'm going with Kansas City this week. Next game we have Minnesota. We just talked about Minnesota going against Vegas. The books are giving Minnesota 6.5. Mitch,
Well,
you need
I
this
would
one.
really, I would really like the Raiders to win this game, but we all know that they're not. Vikings win this game, and keep it interesting in the AFC.
All right, Dean.
I predict the Chiefs will not be eliminated. And the good news, Mitch, is yes, the Raiders are going to win this game. This is going to be an upset Raiders win.
Okay. Um, I kind of went back and forth on this one a little bit, but I ended up leaning towards Minnesota for Minnesota to take this win this week. Next game we have Pittsburgh playing against Seattle. They are giving Pittsburgh 3.5. Dean.
Yeah, this could possibly even be a pick 'em, but this game is about pride. These teams aren't making the playoffs, and it's about finishing the season on off on a winning note. And I think Seattle will win a close game at home and go into this coming off season with a win.
All right. Mitch, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going Seattle as well. Unless the Steelers do something dramatically different on offense, unless you turn the ball over a lot, I just don't see them scoring enough to win this game.
All right. And I'm sticking with my boys all the way. Go Hawks. Next game we have Atlanta hosting Washington. As we all know, Atlanta needs a win and some help. So they are giving, but the sporting books are giving Washington 7.5. Mitch.
Washington, unless Jerry has been, kind of taking a knee for the last 8 weeks, getting ready for the playoffs, I would think they would want to come out and get that season split against Atlanta. So I'm going to go with the Redskins.
All right. Dean, what do you got?
Yeah, I think we're going to see that game is going to be closer than the spread shows, and I think the home team will find a way to come out a point or two ahead on this one.
All right. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think that Washington is going to have a little bit too much. Um, the spread's not going to be there. It's going to be a much tighter spread, but I am going with Washington on this one. Next game we have Chicago hosting New Orleans. They are giving Chicago 13.5. Dean.
Yeah, I think Chicago is going to play solid on both sides of the ball and go into postseason with momentum, and I think they'll win and cover the spread here.
All right, Mitch.
Well, y'all know how I like New Orleans. I think Coach Perez does good work, but I don't think he's going to have enough against Chicago this week. Cards win.
I gotta agree with you on this one. I don't think Chicago's going to take their foot off their neck, just off of anybody's neck this season, and they're going to keep it going. So I'm going with Chicago on this one. Next game, we have New York Giants hosting San Francisco, a must-win for the Giants, but they are giving Frisco 6.5. Mitch.
Ooh. Well, up until this past week, the Niners had the number 3 scoring defense. Don't know how motivated Charlie will be, being that he's already got his playoff spot locked in. But you know what? Let's go with San Francisco. Why not? What the heck?
Okay. Dean, what do you
Yeah.
got?
This is as close as Sean has come to making the playoffs, and I don't think he's going to miss that opportunity. I think he's going to come up with the winning formula to beat the 49ers this weekend, and Giants will finish the season 8-8 and the 4th seed in the playoffs. Sean will make his first postseason appearance in the PNFL.
Ooh, that's a good prediction. But this is a must-win game. I think Charlie is not going to, despite Sean's hard effort and putting everything in, I think Charlie's going to deny him. I am going to go with San Francisco this week, and they are my lead pipe lock. And I do believe this point spread is going to be much closer than 6.5. So, last game that we have coming up for week 16 is Detroit hosting Anaheim. This is our second pick'em of the week, and we are starting with Dean.
Yeah, I think the home team will win this game, and Detroit will finish off on a winning note.
All right. Mitch, what do you got?
Well, I have picked on the Rams for a while. I thought coming into the year they were going to take a step forward, and for about three quarters of the season they took a step backwards. But they've had a couple of pretty solid victories here in the last quarter of the season. And you know what? I think they're going to finish it out and make it a strong finish to close out the year. Lead pipe lock. Rams will take this game over Detroit.
Okay. And I am going to go ahead and, even though it is a pick 'em, it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to go ahead and select Detroit to finish their season on a high note. So going with Detroit on this one. So as we wrap up this week's show, we know that there's a lot of playoff implications coming out from these games, and it's going to be interesting to see. I know that Mitch wants everyone to turn their PPPs in early. If he had his way, he'd have them turned in on Friday so we can run the games on Saturday, and then we could be done by noon on Saturday. But I
That would
don't
be
think that.
great. I think we should propose that on the forum. Actually,
No,
Good for that deadline Friday night on PPPs.
absolutely.
no.
Mhm.
I'd say maybe at a cutoff point in the afternoon, Saturday afternoon, deadline by 5.
Man, y'all are waiting to the last minute to work on y'all stuff. Goodness gracious.
Hey, some people don't have wear the scientist coat and with the frizzled hair, and they're hanging out in the basement with the beaker bottles going off, and
Jeez.
Mad Hatter, just doing all the planning with the chalkboard and everything up. So,
Man, don't let your jealousy bleed over into our conference call here. I mean, goodness gracious.
uh, got
Our listeners don't care about your jealousy.
got it. Probably has a Tesla Dojo computer server in there cranking out sims of all the games, or using one of Amazon's server rooms. And yeah, I just need to run games this week. I need this whole rack right here just to run games. Yeah,
And it works so well.
yeah, yet it works so well. True.
And it works so well. Yeah.
All right, so
And
as we are coming to wrap this game, because I don't have an argument against that, because hey, the record
You
still
used to
is.
like toss the games and lose 35-19 or something.
yeah, that's right.
Oh
That
my. So
lets you know how well it works. I have to wonder this week whether possibly all three of our lead pipe locks may turn out to be lead pipe curses.
interesting.
Uh,
You know what? That'll be a good topic for next week. We need to talk about that because it's a playoff edition, so we can talk about that a little bit. So,
Yeah, it just depends on how the games go. But
yep,
I think we kind of made somewhat risky picks with our lead pipe locks.
yep. All right. So as we come to wrap this up, guys, like I said, we have some good games coming up this week. Um, it's coming down to week 16. I think this is the best part because the AFC has 2 spots that'll be settled up after this week, and the NFC has 1. So definitely an interesting slate of games coming up. So before we close this out, Dean, any final words of wisdom? Any thoughts, topics, ideas?
Yeah, it's interesting that we're playing week 16, and there's only really 6 teams that are out of it. 12 teams possibly still think they have some chance, no matter how slim it is, of getting in. So that's really interesting to look at when you think about it.
I agree. Mitch, any comment on that before you take us home?
it makes you wonder what those people have been doing all year, right? But anyway, no, it's going to be a fun week, and look forward to talking about it on our next episode. The only thing left to do now is let's get it.